I'm Hayley, and if you like paranormal romance, let's be friends! So I started watching Booktube videos about 2 or so years ago, I think, and I started watching Carrie Can Read, and this is the very first time I ever saw the newbie tag, and so I thought I might want to do it too, and this was 2 years ago. So I started recording videos and stuff like that, and then I got really, really scared, and I backed away and I stopped recording videos and I never posted any of them. And so now here we are 2 years later and I'm like, okay, I think I can do it. So I want to do a newbie tag video so that I can introduce myself to the Booktube community. And if you decide that you want to hang out and be friends with me, then go ahead and like this video and subscribe to this channel so that we can hang out once a week. Because that's when I'm going to upload, is once a week, because I have children and a full-time job. And I can't do it more than that. All right, so we're going to start out with our very first question, which is, why did you start this channel? So I kind of already answered this one on accident, but I started this channel because I love books, and specifically I love paranormal romance. I grew up reading paranormal romance, and I didn't have any kind of a guide to help me like pick books and find new things that were kind of worthwhile or help you just navigate it. So this is why I'm starting my YouTube channel, because I want to help be a guide for other people who love paranormal romance and maybe don't know as much. There's a question later on. I'm going to dive into that a little bit more, but that is why I started this YouTube channel. It was also very much inspired by Carrie Can Read. So Carrie, if you're watching this, thank you for making your YouTube channel, because I wouldn't be here without it. All right, so what are some fun and unique things that you can bring to YouTube? I love paranormal romance. I love fantasy and I love fantasy romance. However, I don't love the spicy stuff. So while I was growing up, I didn't have any real guide to help me figure out what books were great and what books weren't, and which ones had a ton of spice and which ones had a little bit of spice that I could switch over and whatnot. So the fun and unique thing that I am doing with my YouTube channel is that my videos are going to give skip pages, and I'm also going to try and be kind of a guide to people who are new into the paranormal romance and fantasy romance genres, so that they can kind of know, okay, this book has a lot of spice, still a good read. Here are the skip pages. This book has not any spice, but maybe is not as good of a book, so maybe skip this one. This book has a little bit of everything and whatnot. So I want to be a guide to other people who are trying to navigate this space. And since I personally don't read the spice, I will be able to kind of give the pages that you can skip and whatnot. And when I say don't read, I mean, I kind of like, I skim them just in case there's any super important things going on, but I don't know, it's the least interesting thing for me about paranormal romance. I'm way more into the vampires and the werewolves and the magic and all of that kind of stuff. So that's the fun and unique thing that I'm bringing to YouTube. Number 3, what are you most excited about for your channel? I think the thing I'm most excited about is like being a part of a community that is gonna get my nerdiness and my weirdness. So I grew up reading and I would talk about books all the time. And back in the day, I might not look it, but I'm a little older. I started reading books significantly pre Twilight. Like I started reading paranormal romance significantly before Twilight exploded on the scene. And so I kind of have this weird demarcation of my reading experience where I started where there was very little, almost nothing in young adult. And then like Twilight happened in my 20s and then like exploded. And now we have all of this stuff, but it's like kind of hard to navigate through. So I'm excited about joining this community that understands my nerdiness. And like when I reference things, you guys will probably get it. Also, my husband is kind of sick of talking about books with me that he hasn't read and trying to be interested. So that's what you guys are for. That's why we should be friends. All right, so why do you love reading? I think a lot of us readers have the same answer to this question, and it's mostly because you can escape for a little while. So I almost strictly read fiction. And I don't read a lot of nonfiction until I was married and I had kids. I think I didn't do nonfiction just because I didn't have anything I really wanted to learn outside of just like classes in school and stuff like that. But then once I had kids, suddenly I felt like I needed to know a lot more stuff. So I read a lot of nonfiction about parenting. And then I also read a lot of books when my son was diagnosed with autism and ADHD. And then when I was diagnosed with ADHD in my early 30s. So I am mostly a escapist reader and I love it. And it's like being able to go into a world that is totally different than ours and a world that I am loving, and being able to be someone different for a couple of hours is so awesome. I think it was Mark Twain, but it said, when you read, you get to live 1,000 lives. I think it's Mark Twain. If you know who it is, drop it in the comments because I love that quote. I don't remember who it is right now. So that's why I love to read, because I can go be someone else for a little while. What book series got you into reading? 100% Nancy Drew in the 4th grade. So my family is a bunch of readers, and I'm the youngest of 5. And one of the chores that my older siblings would have would be to read to me when they got home from school, mostly because my mom needed a break. And I didn't really get the reading thing until I was in 4th grade. So I read that first Nancy Drew book and I was absolutely hooked. I was gone at that point. Reading became my number one absolute favorite thing to do. And then at like 13 or so, I discovered romance and paranormal romance. My very first romance I ever read was The Unlikely Romance of Kate Bjorkman by Louise Plummer, which is still a favorite. And I managed to find at a thrift store recently an original cover of the book because it was republished, I think, in like 2005 or something like that with a different cover. But I found the original and I was so excited that I could get that. So that was my first introduction to romance. And then my introduction to paranormal romance was L.J. Smith with her divine, oh shoot, what's the name of it? Dark Visions. Her Dark Visions trilogy. So what questions would you ask your favorite YouTubers? I think the biggest would be, how do you read so much? How do you manage to read all of the content that you need for your channel? Also, how do you manage your your channel with your personal life? Because I find myself becoming very, very obsessive with my YouTube channel and have a tendency to kind of forget that I have children and that I have other responsibilities. So, All right, what challenges will be the hardest with YouTube? And I've seen this one answered a couple of times the same way, and I think I'm in the same boat. I think my biggest challenge is going to be not being super stressed out about the numbers because, like I said in my previous answer, I get really obsessive and I have a tendency to want to have everything right now. It's part of my ADHD-ness. And I think the numbers are something that are going to trip me up on a real consistent basis. So I think that's going to be one of my biggest challenges. I think the second challenge is going to be knowing that I want to do all of the things and I can't do all of the things, and that I need to figure out how to do how to pace myself because I want to do all of them right now, pretty much. When did you start reading? I started reading when I was in 4th grade, so I was 10, 11 years old, and I really enjoyed it. And that's kind of the age that I became obsessed. And like when I say obsessed, like I lived in a fairly rural area in Utah, and there was this grassy section of the property that we lived on, which was right next to my family farm, that my grandfather owned. And I patted down the grass and then laid down a sleeping bag, and that was like my little book nest. And I would go out there as soon as my chores were done. I would go out there and stay there all day long. And this is in like the heat of the summer where it could get up to like 110 degrees in the desert here in Utah. And it got hot, but I was just out there. I was totally fine being sweaty and whatever, and I'd go inside when it got too hot. But I became obsessed. So that kind of goes into our next question of where do you read? That was when I was a kid. Now when I read, I actually read here in my office. Over it's a little bit of a mess, but over there in that chair, that's where I read. And I also read in my bed downstairs. So this very last question, I'm pretty sure you guys all know the answer to, but what types of books do you read? I read paranormal romance, paranormal fiction, like mystery thriller, and fantasy. So, and I consider paranormal romance and like fantasy romance, like they're kind of romantasy. They're kind of like all together in the same thing because paranormal romance kind of is an umbrella term for anything that is not human. So like aliens, vampires, werewolves, witches, shifters, jinn. I already said aliens. I can't think of it all of it right now, but there's a lot. Like any kind of monsters, any things like that. But I normally stick to the types of monsters that are human-esque. Not the ones I've seen some recently that it's like oh my gosh. I just love the giant tentacle dude. Oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. Cthulhu. Yes, there's the word. There it is. Cthulhu. It's like a romance with Cthulhu, and I'm like, I don't do tentacles. I can't do tentacles. So I kind of consider like Akatar, I would consider a paranormal romance fantasy. But that's like it's all kind of an umbrella term for me, but that's what I totally read. I absolutely adore it. So if you read the same types of things and any of this conversation felt like we should be friends, then we should be friends. So go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss when I upload, because I would love to get your feedback and your conversation about books and different things. The couple of the books or the videos that I'm planning on putting up the next little bit is how to get free Kindle books, how to find free Kindle books, how to find clean fiction based on just the information and the graphic on the book and Amazon, and like little tips and tricks that I have found to help find clean paranormal romance and clean fiction. So like, subscribe, do the YouTubey things, and remember, you are worthy, you are loved, and happy reading. Oh, that's way better. Okay, we're gonna do that. We're gonna start all of this again. I started my channel because nope, that I really loved. So I don't love this white balance. I live right next to Main Street.